Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, the Black Business School. And I'm going to say hello, everybody, and I hope you guys are doing well. This is kind of a special episode because the world has literally flipped on its head. Recently, you saw that NBA players are refusing to play, because of the police brutality issue and everything that's going on with Jacob Blake, the brother that was shot out in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And so there's a lot changing, and it's kind of evolving every single second. So in order to kind of dig into this, you guys, I don't even want to talk about what I think right now because I want to hear from some experts in sports. So the first person that came to mind for me is my brother I call Little Stephen A. He's not little, but he's young. The young Stephen A. Mr. Jeff Lightsy from Ball Sports. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Dr. Boyce?
Doing extremely well, extremely well. So let's start from the jump, man. So today's a big day for brothers. It sounds like black men, black male athletes are starting to realize their power. Black men, and I'll just tell you, even back when you were a little baby, I used to write articles like that. Like, I wish black men who are athletes would realize how much power they could have, that they could change a lot of problems overnight. And so yesterday I saw that. Yesterday, it's like when Dr. King had a dream. I guess his dream was little white girls and little black boys holding hands. I don't care about that. That's never been my dream. But my dream has always been for the black men to really stand up. And it sounds like these brothers really stood up recently.
Yeah. So like you said, it started with the Milwaukee Bucks. They decided to go ahead and protest their playoff game. We're talking about a game that is on a national stage that has access to everyone to play and everyone to see. And they came out and said, just what's taking place in our home state, Milwaukee's and Wisconsin and what happened in Kenosha, we don't feel that it's appropriate to play basketball. There's a lot bigger things going on in the world right now than the game of basketball. And one way that we can make a statement is by not playing this game, and therefore putting the pressure on the TV sponsors, the TV networks, the owners of the team, and basically saying, you guys have power. Use your power to help us, to help our community, because time in and time out, there's too many acts of violence and police brutality in cases of white supremacy taking place on camera that we don't feel comfortable going out here and playing the game of basketball. And that was what was amazing. It was groundbreaking. It was incredible. And it was the first time that a basketball game in the NBA on the professional level had been boycotted since 1961. Right. So in 1961, Bill Russell and members of the Boston Celtics boycotted a basketball game ironically, for racial injustice. Right. Like, because some racist acts had taken place in Boston. So we're talking about nearly 50 years later, 50 years later, the same thing is happening in 2020. And that is quite frankly, it's pretty sad. So yeah, that's what's taking place, or 60 years later, rather, not 50, 60 years later. So it's crazy to think about.
Well, you're right. It's almost like, from a racial justice standpoint, we kind of hit rock bottom. And so
I can give you this
$50,000. Sorry.
Let
me turn this off. Sorry, my computer starts talking. Somebody's ad popped out offering $50,000. Okay. But so here's the thing is, it's a great moment, but you're right. It's a sad moment. It's like, man, it took 60 years, but it's a great moment because it's a great moment. It's like I don't know, your crackhead cousin finally picks his kids up from school on time. So you celebrate because it means something that he's picking his kids up, but at the same time, you're kind of like, you should have been picking your kids up all along. Yeah. Like, this is, we're congratulating you because you got up off the floor and stopped doing the bare minimum. And so what I would say is that this is crazy. I mean, there's so many things that have happened, in the last few months. You have the protests, the pandemic, and now you got this sort of thing. And I thought it was really interesting in terms of a contrast. And I'm wondering if the white liberals are going to start pushing on this. So here you see a lot of the athletes led by LeBron James, who's a great black man, by the way, athlete of the year, one of the greatest black men in history, in my opinion, for what he's doing, who's leading this charge to say that this is bigger than basketball. We're not playing as long as this is happening. Now, remember, though, a few months ago, they criticized LeBron because he didn't want to get involved in the oppression that was occurring in Hong Kong, right? Yeah. Remember Hong Kong popped off and he was like, I apologize. I ain't got nothing to do with that. And I think that's what's going to be interesting, because I think that shows a divide between black justice and white liberal justice. And the reason I point that out is because Black Lives Matter was more of a white liberal kind of push. We've jumped on board because we all agree that Black Lives Matter. We all agree with the idea that Black Lives Matter. But that organization, all the organized protests, the Antifa stuff, busting windows out and blowing up buildings, like that was all organized by somebody else. Black people didn't put all that together. We don't roll like that. So I'm wondering how this is going to play out in the future in terms of whether or not they're going to start pressuring LeBron to stand up and make a move for every single thing. And also, I'm also thinking, just speaking of LeBron in particular, he's not a young guy. So I think that the sacrifice is that much more extraordinary, because he came off to me, and maybe you can speak to this as well. It came off to me that LeBron is the kind of guy that's basically rushing to get his next championship to secure his legacy, because he's already sort of failed the Jordan test in terms of the debate. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, as far as how impressed you are with LeBron making the sacrifice in light of what he's trying to do as a player?
So as a player, like you said, LeBron definitely doesn't have much basketball left, right? Like he's got maybe 3 to 5 good, like prime LeBron years, maybe. And that's a stretch. 5 years, he'd be 40 years old. Ain't too many great basketball players at 40. So the thing is, he definitely wants to finish. I would imagine he wants to finish the season, or at least wanted to finish the season, because this was his best chance in a while to win another championship. But in this case, I think in a lot of ways, Bron will make himself submit his legacy by being more than just an athlete. He has the campaign of the more than an athlete. And one way that, in a lot of ways, that he will eclipse Jordan, or maybe has already eclipsed Jordan, is the fact that he has done so much more, not just in the community, but for particularly the Black community, right? You see all these go out and vote, these register to vote campaigns, the I Promise School, the money that he's donated. And not to say Michael Jordan hasn't done his fair share, because he's done his fair share, but he's very quiet about it, right? Like, but LeBron is like, this is what we're doing, and this is how I'm doing it, and this is what I want you to know, what I am doing and how I'm doing it. And I'm going to make sure you know. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not me that's directly putting it in your face, like my Spring Hill entertainment company is going to let you know. My guy over here, his right-hand man, whether it's Rich Paul or I can't think of his business partner, Maverick Carter. Maverick Carter is going to let you know, like, that we are making moves to make sure the Black community is in a great condition. And as far as the NBA, what's going to be so interesting moving forward is because the NBA.
Hey, everybody. Looks like I lost Jeff. I assume he's going to come back. But tell me what you think. First of all, hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please hit the thumbs up button right now. And we're talking about all the NBA players that have walked off the court and decided that they don't want to play. They basically said, screw all this stuff. Like, what's going on with racial injustice is more important than basketball. And I'd like to know what you guys think on this. I personally, you guys can probably guess what I think. I've been speaking on athletes for many years. I remember when I was writing articles at University of Kentucky a long time ago, and I used to constantly say that if college athletes decided not to play, we could change a lot of problems in the Black community almost overnight. The Black athlete is one of the most powerful individuals in the world, and ultimately, if you want to make change, you got to make some sort of sacrifice. And I was saying that, and I felt like I was talking to people that didn't want to hear it. There's Jeff. He's back. And I'm really happy now because it seems like the world is listening. And so it looks like Jeff is back. We got to get the Wi-Fi fixed. So Jeff,
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay, man. So you were making some points before you bounced out. And maybe I can help you hit that reset button. So, when you're talking about LeBron making the sacrifice to stand up, and you were talking about Maverick Carter and his other guys, like that's another thing you have to admire about LeBron that makes him different from a Michael Jordan. And you're right. I think it makes him better than a Michael Jordan because he transcends a Michael Jordan. He transcends basketball. Right, he has the Muhammad Ali effect.
Yes, and I think that's what he's going for. I definitely think that's what he's going for, and I think what the players are now trying to do by boycotting these games. Think about who's behind NBA games. It's the NBA as a corporation, and then there's the owners, right? What are owners in the NBA? They're billionaires. Well, think about it. Billionaires, and especially in states like Wisconsin and in cities like Milwaukee, have direct connections to governors, to district attorneys, to politicians, to mayors. So when you put the pressure on those guys who's buddying or who's donating to these campaigns, you force the issue. Because guess what? If a billionaire in a state or of Wisconsin or any state, any of the 50 states, wants something to happen with a politician, they're going to make it happen because they're donating millions of dollars to their campaign funds. They're getting millions of tax benefits and tax breaks when they're building these gigantic stadiums and arenas, right? So they're hand in hand with these people. And so what the NBA players are saying, hey, owner of the Milwaukee Bucks or whoever, talk to your politician buddy or whoever he is and make this change from within the system. That is what the issue that they're trying to force. Whether that will be successful is yet to be seen. But that is the issue that you can cause because those people do have direct connections to mayors, governors, district attorneys, and big-time politicians within every major city in America.
Well, everybody, in case you just came in, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsy Jr. from Ball Sports. Jeff is an expert on sports, and we're talking about NBA players standing up, particularly guys like LeBron James and others who are making what is amounting to an historic sacrifice. If you haven't done this yet, please take a second, hit the thumbs up button. That helps us grow the video in the algorithm. And also let us know what you think. Make a comment in the chat. Tell us what you think about this idea of boycotting the NBA games for the sake of racial justice. I personally think it's a great idea. I'm really, really happy about it. And so, Jeff, I want to mention this to you, man. When I see this happening, and you're right, all these moves that they're making to put pressure on the NBA and the billionaire owners to use that power to actually get something done, that's very consistent with Powernomics. Dr. Claude Anderson in the book Powernomics speaks regularly about how economic power, the economic base, drives everything else. That drives the politics. That drives the police brutality issues. That drives the educational system. That drives media. And LeBron, and as well as the guys that follow him, just seem to get that. They seem to know how to play chess, not checkers. They're going and they're saying, look, if you don't get this right, if you don't do right by us, by our people, we're gonna make you pay. It's gonna cost you a whole lot of money because you don't want a LeBron James walking off the court. When LeBron James walks off the court, somebody's losing tens of millions of dollars, and they don't want that. So with that said, I personally think that this strategy translates into everything that matters in the Black community. I think that with this being an election year, now you got Democrats and Republicans trying to be the biggest pimp, trying to get the Black vote for nothing. I wonder if there's a Powernomic strategy that can also translate into getting things done when it comes to voting for who we want in the White House and all that stuff. What do you see as far as the big picture on this? Just generally in the world of sports, how do you think this is going to change sports forever?
Well, I think, to me, the NBA, and especially the WNBA, I want to give them kudos. They have always been the first in line when it comes to social justice issues and speaking out on behalf of the Black community and trying to make things go in favor of the Black community. But they're just a portion, right? The WNBA, the NBA. But when you get things, people like the MLB involved, there were games in the MLB that were boycotted. And that's a little different. That's a change in direction because the MLB has always been more of the conservative side of things, whether it's, right or wrong. They're more of the good old boys. I mean, baseball has been played for hundreds of years, and obviously we knew the color barrier had to be broken by Jackie Robinson, and with that long history of Black suppression in the Major League Baseball. So them boycotting games to me was a surprise. What will be the ultimate goal and what will wake up and shake the tables a lot would be if the NFL, if players in the NFL start to boycott. Now, for the NFL, for their sake, luckily for them, they don't start their season for a couple weeks, right? They still have a couple weeks, so they're hoping that some of this momentum dies down over the next 2 to 3 weeks when their season starts. But if NFL games are boycotted by players, to me, that would be a huge shaking of the table because NBA players, their contracts are guaranteed. So a lot of their money is already secure. They're risking money, but there's a lot less players and the contracts are guaranteed. So therefore, and most of their season's already been played. So they've already made most of the money they were going to make in this year during the pandemic anyway. NFL players, one, haven't started the season, and two, contracts are not guaranteed. And three, they're a lot easier to replace an NFL player than it is a LeBron James. So if those teams decide to boycott games because of racial injustice, because, I hate to say it, the Jacob Blake incident probably won't be the last one caught on camera this year. I hate to say it, but if we just look at the trend, like George Floyd happened in May, and we're talking 3 months later, Jacob Blake has happened. So the trend is somebody else may, an attempt on someone else's life, maybe not die, but an attempt on another black man's life by the police may happen before the end of the year. And so if that does take place, will the NFL players step up when they have, in a sense, a lot more to lose because they don't have guaranteed contracts? And we know how conservative the NFL and their owners are. They've been, and how they like to tell them to shut up. How they can tell a lot of players to, take a seat. Don't be kneeling. Don't be talking out. Now they're trying to be more open and trying to say, oh, we were wrong about Kaepernick and everything. But the history of the NFL tells us that they're not going for boycotting games. Because they lose a lot more money than NBA teams do, and two, because the players are risking a lot more. So that would be the major shakeup. And we know how the president in the White House has come out and spoken directly out against the NFL and some of the tactics that some of the players have done in the past. So if the athletes could get the NFL players, the ones with a lot more to lose and more likely to get cut, and no guaranteed contracts, and the contracts are smaller, to join in this movement, then I think we see some major. I think that would be another huge step in the right direction.
Well, I agree with you, man, and I think it's beautiful. And a few thoughts that kind of came to mind as you were talking was I thought about that movie. There was a movie called The Express. Back when I was teaching at Syracuse University, I remember seeing that movie. It was about Ernie Davis, who was the first black man to win the Heisman Trophy in 1961. He died young, unfortunately. And I remember in that movie, what was interesting was that civil rights and the rights of black people came up. These social injustice issues came up. And I remember his white coach basically told him, look, just play football. Like, don't get caught up in that stuff. Don't get distracted. Just keep playing football. And that was almost portrayed in the film as the right answer. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. And on the flip side of that, they had a character that played Jim Brown. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Jim Brown was at Syracuse before Ernie Davis.
Yes, he was.
Helped recruit him, yeah. And Jim Brown, we know. First of all, he was a bad dude, just the greatest football player I ever saw. And so Syracuse owed him a debt of gratitude. But you also know Jim Brown was a strong black man. He was a LeBron James type of guy, back in the 1950s and 1960s. And what was interesting was in this film, which was not made by black people, of course, they portrayed Jim Brown as the crazy, out of control guy.
Bad guy.
The bad guy. He's the villain. Ernie Davis is the good guy. So a lot of what we're dealing with is brainwashing. We're dealing with the fact that people have a vested financial interest in brainwashing the black man the same way you tame a dangerous animal. The same way a circus owner can convince an elephant that the person with the whip, that the little elephant trainer, is more powerful than him. Because he doesn't want the elephant to realize, like, wait a minute, I can crush you with 1 foot. Yeah. One day, and that's their worst nightmare, that one day the elephant's gonna be like, hold up, wait. Why are you whipping me and I'm taking it? No, how about I just kill you right now? And I think that for the black men, I think this is an exciting moment for black people, but it's also a nightmare for a lot of people. I personally wonder, maybe it's the conspiracy theorist in me, and you guys in the chat can let us know what you think. I'm waiting for something bad to occur in terms of them trying to stain LeBron's reputation. I'm waiting for them to run a bunch of stories in the New York Times about, an Instagram model or a false accusation or something. Because I will tell you this, I would be really impressed with America, actually, if a man that doing the things that he's doing, the way he's doing it in such an authentic way, is allowed to have that much wealth and power for a very long time. What do you think? Am I just being paranoid here, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's definitely, it has happened before. The only thing is LeBron's 17 years into this as a professional, and then even more since he's been in the spotlight, and they can't penetrate the armor, right? Like they've tried so many times, tried to tell him to shut up and dribble, or tried to say, talk about his mom and whatever the hell she was doing, whether it was with different players on his team or whatever she was doing prior to LeBron's birth or during LeBron's life. Like that seemed to be the link that they've tried to attack the most, right? Is his mom, because his mom had him at 16, and apparently she messed around with one of the players on his team at one time, and all kinds of stuff. Like they try to denigrate, because it's hard to denigrate him, and he's been with the same woman since he was in high school. He has 3 loving children. He's a father. He's a business owner. He's an amazing basketball player. So there's not really much there to attack. But besides, so it's like, okay, what is the weakest link? Oh, his mother. I'm gonna attack his mother because she was, whatever, or he has a deadbeat father that nobody knows about. So those have been some of the attacks. But that definitely takes place, because now what I'm seeing, or a lot of the backlash and some of the videos I've done, when I did the video about the Raptors potentially boycotting, this is before the boycotts actually happened, a lot of the comments were saying, well, why are they boycotting the guy? There was the attack on Jacob Blake's character. Right? He was like, he's a rapist. He had a knife. He had this and that. So you do see the attack on people's character and the attack on especially the black men. Whenever black men are the victims in any kind of situation, whether it's police brutality or just white supremacy or whatever, you see the attack on their characters. And Trayvon Martin, they did him the same way. Alton Sterling, George Floyd, and now it's Jacob Blake's turn, where these men are the victims in these cases. And you see, people that support the police or support white supremacy come out and say, and it's even worse when they come out and say, I'm a person of color. I had one person write on my, so that let me know you aren't black. It's like, I'm a person of color, but this person was a rapist, and this person had a knife in his hand, and he was resisting arrest. And so that means he deserved to be shot 7 times in the back. Like, I'm confused. Like, what, or in the hell does that justify, attempt on his life? But that's beside the point. As far as LeBron goes, they have definitely tried to attack his character, but I see it all the time in media, or just people that want to support white supremacy come out and attack a black man's character when they are actually the victim. And it's sad to see.
Well, just to give you some reference on that, if you really look at the history of America, I used to write in my articles a long time ago, when I was actually a little bit older than you, man, I used to basically say the black man is America's cockroach. Nobody likes roaches around. Nobody wants a roach as a pet or as a friend. You exterminate roaches. And I've always felt that there was an extermination process in place. There's on so many different levels. And even if you go back to the 90s, back when I guess you were younger at that time, back then, that was actually when they even started things like mass incarceration on an epic scale. That was when Biden and Clinton passed the crime bill. And I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of black men gone. That's what, so a generation later, you got a lot of missing fathers. You got a lot of broken families. You have a lot of traumatized children because those children didn't have their fathers. So that's how insidious they can be when it comes to destroying the black man. They don't just try to kill the black man with that gun on the street. They kill the black man in the educational system. They kill the black man in the economic system. They kill the black men in the abortion clinics. They're killing the black men on every single level of the game. And it's very important that we understand how to strategically battle against that. And so with NBA players standing up and using their power, man, I think it's great. How about Kenny Smith, man? How'd you feel when Kenny Smith walked off?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it because at times, and as much as I love that inside the NBA crew, at times Charles Barkley and even Shaq sometimes, but mainly Charles Barkley can kind of tend towards, ooh, okay, like, like it sounds good for TV, but that ain't, you take that to the black audience, they ain't hearing that. Some of the things he was saying, I don't want to call him out his name, but it's like, whoa, Charles, like are you with us or against us? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like
Charles is a lightweight version of Jason Whitlock. Like, Jason really goes way over. And the crazy thing is, like, Jason, like, I'm friends with 2 guys I think of that I know reasonably well in that space are Chris Broussard and Jason Whitlock. And they're kind of like the odd couple, because Chris Broussard, anybody who knows him knows he keeps it 100. That is a man of principle. He's put his job on the line. That brother's authentic. That brother is real. Jason, when we talk, we debate. Because I don't have a problem with people that have different opinions from me. I'm not one that's going to be quick to be like, oh, you a coon because of this and this. I don't like all that. I don't like oppressive language. I'd rather debate you, right? I'd rather learn and try to understand your point of view. If I believe that you believe, if you're saying the things you're saying because you really think it'll help Black people. And one thing about Whitlock, for example, is he's a guy that he's just a guy that just believes in family. He believes white liberals are fucking Black people up. He says mean things to Black people because in his mind, which I don't agree with a lot of times, in his mind, he feels like we need to hear these things so we can be better, right? Now, mind you, though, Barkley doesn't come off to me that way. I don't feel like Barkley is really trying to. He's not about Black people. He's the same guy back in the day that used to say, I refuse to be a role model. I'm not a role model. So that says to me, you don't give a shit about anybody but yourself, right? So that's fine. So Barkley gets on my nerves. Don't hate him, but he's gotten more intelligent through the years, but he gets on my nerves. Shaq, Shaq, he'd be Shaq'd in a fool. God bless Shaq for what he's achieved economically, though, right? He comes from a sturdy background. His father was a strong man. Shout out to all the strong fathers in the building. I'm a big believer in fathers. And so Shaq has amassed this massive fortune. He's engaged in a lot of powernomics, which I think has been great. But if you notice, I thought it was really interesting when Kenny Smith, that's my guy right there. That's my favorite guy on that show. When Kenny Smith was just like, man, I shouldn't even be here. And he was talking. He didn't know what he was trying to say, which told me that he was deep, reflective. He was authentically emotional. And he just said, I got to go. And I said, that's what I'm talking about. That is a guy of principle. And what was interesting was the awkwardness that I'm sure Barkley and Shaq felt to watch Kenny Smith stand up for what he believed in. That made them look pretty bad. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with it because Kenny, as he's leaving, as he pulls out his mic, he says, I'll deal with whatever comes, later. You know what I mean? Like, but because he knows some kind of reprimand or some kind of whatever, like he might not get fired, but somebody's going to be pretty mad. He walked off the set and mainly mad because the other two Black guys just sat there, right? Like, it's because you're almost embarrassing them since they don't want to leave or since they feel like you're almost like making them, look, I mean, you're kind of embarrassing them because Kenny is now getting all this heat and all this praise from us, from everybody, like around the country. But Shaq and Chuck were also on that set. Shaq and Chuck also played in the NBA. Shaq and Chuck also are Black men, and they decided to stay. So it's like, no offense to them, but I can see why, and that's probably why Kenny knows like some kind of reprimand or whatever is going to happen. But he felt powerful enough to stand with what he called his NBA brothers in solidarity and decide not to do the show that night. He said, they didn't play no games. Why should we do a show tonight? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and the show is pretty short, but he's like, even for that, length of amount of time, I will not be here and I'll deal with whatever comes with it later. And I applaud him for that.
Kenny drew a line in the sand. That's what he did. And when you draw a line in the sand, you find out exactly where people stand. And Shaq and Barkley just got quiet. when
he had to go commercial.
and everything happened the way we would have predicted because we've seen them on this show for years. So what we see is real, and I love this idea of just putting pressure on the world to say, look, you see this injustice, you see these Black men dying. Why are you not dealing with this issue? So the last point I'll make on this, and I'll let you get the last word, is if people want my advice, people have asked me, what do you think the guy should do next? And anybody that gives a shit what I think, here's what I think should be the next thing on the horizon. One thing we got to realize is that sometimes the thing you focus on causes you to miss all the things that you're not seeing. So it's like if I stare at the sun, I can't see things that are behind the sun. So when one shooting occurs, that becomes the sun, that becomes the focal point. And we all become very obsessed with getting justice for that one person. And that becomes symbolism. It becomes an exercise in symbolism. And you put yourself in a loop. You have the repetitive process. Somebody gets shot. Benjamin Crump shows up. He's doing press conferences. We protest. We get justice for that person and their family. They get a check from the city. And then we just hit that same loop, right? All the while, you've got tens of thousands of Black people, Black men and women in prison right now who should not be in prison. These people are being beaten every day. They're being raped. They're being traumatized on a regular basis. They are away from their families. Their children are traumatized from not having their parents. We got to go deep. We need a systematic solution. When you're trying to kill roaches in your house and you have a nest of roaches, you cannot stomp one roach at a time. You'll just be stomping roaches for the rest of your life. Your feet will get tired. You got to go in there and you got to put a roach bomb in that son of a bitch. You've got to bomb the whole damn building to ensure, I mean, figuratively, not literally. I don't want violence, right? But you got to put a roach bomb to systematically take out the entire nest and take out all the roaches. The roach's nest is the system itself. The roach's nest is these prison systems. Remember this. The black people who get shot, to some extent, that George Floyd, for example, you could almost, in an ironic way, argue that he was more fortunate than if he'd actually lived and survived the encounter. If he'd survived the encounter, then nobody would have known about it. Nobody would have talked about it. They would have dragged him through an unfair justice system, gave him a sentence that was longer than what he deserved, and he'd be getting tortured in prison for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I just think that in general, and a shout out to Russell Simmons on this, because we worked on a project on mass incarceration when we had to really push the Obama administration to do more. Shout out to Russell Simmons, because when he and I were talking about it, he was saying, how do we get laws changed so we can get all these brothers out of Rikers Island and get all these folks who are locked up on weed charges, thousands of them, out at the same time? And that's not what you're hearing from politicians or anybody else. You're not hearing about systematic solutions. You're getting these one-offs, these symbolic solutions. And I'm talking about Biden and Trump, right? So Biden and his people, they pick one case and one person, Breonna Taylor or George Floyd. I mean, God bless them all, but that's one case. And then on the other side, I saw Trump. They're doing the same thing. They did a whole long video where Trump helped a black man get out of jail who had been in there for a really long time. I think that's great. I think the man deserves to get out of jail. But what about all the thousands of people who didn't get on TV? We got to go deal with that too. So if anybody's listening from that camp, I hope that you'll consider that next step being, okay, let's really go let's go for the jugular. Let's dig it out at the root. And the root is that black families are destroyed because we're sending too many black people to prison. They're being harassed by the police. That it all starts with first time when that cop just walks up and says, "What are you doing here? Why are you out at night? Show me your ID." Next thing you know, it escalates. Somebody gets shot or somebody gets sent to jail. Either way, all those outcomes are bad. So we've got to deal with all of that. So I hope everybody agrees with me. Give me a yes in the chat if you follow what I'm saying here. So Jeff, I'm gonna let you get the last word, man. So what's next? First of all, sports-wise, you think the playoffs could just be done? Like, you think everybody's gonna jump on board with this? Or like, where do you think this is gonna go?
So there were reports coming out of the bubble that the players, for the vast majority, want to finish the season, but they don't want to continue until they see some sort of change. Now, what change can you accumulate in a day or a week or 2 weeks? I don't really know. I'm not in that space, but I understand the demands, because this is what they are at this point. They are demands. Only 2 teams, from what I have seen, have said, we don't want to finish the season, because that will be a greater message if we just said, all right, we just quit in the middle. And that was the Lakers and the Clippers. Ironically, the 2 favorites to win the championship. So, say if somehow, some way the Lakers and the Clippers decided to go home, you can't really have a playoffs without the 2 best teams, because the champion would ineffectively be number 4.
Why can't you? If I'm another team, I'm glad those 2 teams are gone, right? Like, yeah. It's like when Jordan retired with the Bulls, they can let somebody else get a championship.
Yeah, but that's different. 1 player versus 2 teams is like, could we really be champions? And so that will put, especially in the Lakers have LeBron James, and so that will put the NBA in a predicament if they did decide. Now, that would be a message I don't even know. I mean, I think Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner's head would explode if LeBron James and the Lakers and Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers decided to leave the bubble and said, we ain't coming back. You know what I mean? Like, that would literally make their heads explode, because I think, and this is one point that's been talked about on social media, they were like, the NBA should have listened, or players should have listened to Kyrie Irving and never went to the bubble and just not played. I can see your point there, but I think they're making a grander, a bigger message by actually playing some games, giving people a taste of what they thought of some normalcy, right? And then the issues in the black community with police continue. So guess what? Now we're just going to snatch your heart out. We're going to take it back, because we can do that, right? During the layoff, nobody was playing. So if you decide not to go to the bubble and not play, then it's just as if the pandemic, you get misconstrued. There's a blurred line between, fighting for social justice and all, but the pandemic put them out. So like, there would have been some confusion there. But by saying the pandemic's not an issue, actually going and we saw games for the last 3 weeks or so since the end of July, and then saying no, we're going to take this back because we don't like what's happening with Black people. That to me is more powerful of a statement than never going to the bubble in the first place. So I definitely think the NBA is going to have to do something. The owners in the NBA are going to have to do something, because if these players decide not to play these playoff games, then that means the TV companies don't pay the NBA. And if they don't pay the NBA, that means the owners don't get paid. And I hate to say it, but for a lot of these owners, money is a greater driving force, or money is a greater force than the social justice part, right? So it's almost more likely,
There we go. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I was just saying, money for them, money is a bigger driving force for them to make some sort of, or to contribute to the change than the actual social justice issues, right? Like, we care more about our money than these Black lives, but because these Black players are forcing our hand, then we'll do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just the reality. Because if it wasn't the reality, we wouldn't still be talking about the first boycott that took place in the 60s and another one that's taking place in 2020. I mean, if that wasn't the issue.
Boom, there you go. And I want everybody to walk away with this understanding. Just understand this, that they don't care about you, and they don't have to care about you. They care about you as much as you care about them. Do you care if the billionaire NBA owner is happy or safe or feeling good about life? No, you don't care. Come on, really? Like, really? How much y'all really? Give me a yes or no. Do you really wake up in the morning wondering, I wonder how white people feel today? I wonder if Asian people feel like Asian lives matter. I wonder if Asian people have enough jobs. No, you don't do that. You don't care, right? So it's okay for them not to care about you. What you do is you make them care about you. You make them do right by you by exerting your power. What matters is not whether or not they care about you. What matters is whether you care about you. So Black lives will matter when Black lives matter to Black people. Black people should be the defender of Black lives. Black people are the emancipator of Black people. Black people should be the ones who decide that we will show the world that Black lives will matter, even if you don't care. We don't need you to care. We just need you to understand that you must represent our interests if you're going to get our resources. And that's all it comes down to. That's how China rocks. China's like, we don't care if you care about China. We don't care if you think Chinese lives matter. We care that Chinese lives matter. And that's really all that matters at this point. So learn power, Black people. Understand how power works and how to get that power, how to protect it, how to grow it. And because this is a power move. This is, in case you're not aware, this is the power move of the year. So God bless LeBron. God bless the players. We're rooting for you. I think this is awesome. Everybody who's watching, please give a digital thank you to our special guest today, Jeff Lightsy Jr. from Boyce Sports. You can watch his commentary. It's really good at thebosssportsnetwork.com. THE, that's thebosssportsnetwork.com. It stands for Brothers on Sports and Society. Also, Jeff, your Instagram, is it jlightsy7?
7, yes, it
okay,
is.
So at jlightsy7. So look up at, everybody follow jlightsy7, and you can check out Jeff's commentary. He has a YouTube channel as well. He's a smart brother. He knows his stuff. All right, guys. So take care, everybody. Have a good day. Thanks a lot, Jeff, man. It was good to see you again, man.
It was good to see you too, Dr. Boyce. Appreciate it.
All right. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you soon. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out, and we will talk to you later. Be good. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, 10, 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.